Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Min and I'm your co-host with Debbie from NDIS Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast that explains, highlights and guides and brings awareness of all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Today we have Debbie here with me and also Simran from last time. We're doing the fourth installment of the Ask Us Anything sub-series in our podcast library. And I'd like to ask Sim to read out this particular email from a avid listener of our podcast series. So Sim, please shoot away.
All right. Hi, Min and Debbie. I have been listening to your podcast and would like to thank you and the team for the great source of information that you are providing in the complex area of SDA. I started listening in January this year and have listened to all the episodes. It's been quite interesting to listen to the comments and advice retrospectively. I'm glad that I fought the temptation to jump to 2025. I am looking at getting into the SDA world and would like to share my story with you and seek some advice. Our youngest son, who's 13 years old, is on the NDIS. He has several challenges, such as nonverbal and significant global development delays. He would like to be eligible for SDA funding under the robust category, and we are considering what the future looks like once we can no longer be his primary caregivers. He is my inspiration for doing this. I am a building professional and have worked in the industry for 30 years. I have my building license and a good friend is keen to invest with us. I am passionate about trying to do something that benefits people with disability and feel that with my lived experience, I am well placed to do that. We live in the southern suburbs of Adelaide and are looking for a block either close to our house or a little closer to the city. 10 kilometers south or west of the CBD would be good. Do you have any comments in the areas? We are looking for an 800-meter square block to subdivide and build a twin robust house on each side of the subdivision. This would be for 4 robust participants, however, each in their own self-contained dwelling, with their own kitchen and living room. We would include a breakout room in each house to be shared between 2 participants on a one-at-a-time basis, and would aim to keep the OOA bedroom separate to the office. What are your thoughts? Sprinklers. We would like to install sprinklers, as I believe this should be mandatory and is certainly required for the safety of the residents. SDA providers. We have been talking to Taryn Thompson from Your Home SDA. Not sure if you are familiar with Taryn. SDA assessor. I had a really good catch up with Warwick Gregg from BuildServe recently. I first came across Warwick around 8 years ago in a professional capacity as he provided disability access service to me on a commercial construction project with his previous company Able Access. I would be very comfortable using Warwick as my SDA assessor. So I have some queries as well. If you could answer, that would be great. Are you able to recommend a high-quality SDA architect or a building designer in Adelaide? I recognize that despite my many years of building experience, I have never built an SDA home, so a great designer is a must. Second question, what are your thoughts around the kitchen being lockable? There has been some talk about it on the podcast. I am thinking a nib wall in the kitchen, so a part of the kitchen, cooktop, oven, sharps could be locked with the rest of the kitchen available to the resident. Your robust design ebook notes that robust homes should be built on acreage. What are your thoughts on building in the suburbs? As a parent of a child with disability, I would want my child as close to my home as possible, which wouldn't be on acreage. What are your thoughts around 4 robust participants on the same block, although each in their own dwelling? I am keen to explore a couple of my own personal theories with you as well. 1. IL potentially being removed from the scheme. I am not sure if this will actually happen due to the demand. What are your thoughts? I think a better option would be to split the robust category into separate subcategories, as the range is so varied in this category with challenging behaviors. Still, with the talk of legacy housing being defunded, what will become of the current residents? Surely some of these buildings could be repurposed, refurbished to provide suitable accommodation for people of the NDIS, even if they are not eligible for SDA funding. I would be very keen to explore the possibility of being the building contractor undertaking these refurbishments, if the demand is there. What are your thoughts? I listened to the podcast where you discussed this topic in the Melbourne region. Are there similar opportunities in Adelaide? I would love to hear from you via your email or phone. Please get back to me if any of the above is of interest. Thank you.
Wow, what an email. Hey, Debbie.
Yeah, it certainly was. Thanks so much, Andy, for reaching out to us. Now, we have actually had a conversation with Andy, but we did say that we would actually cover these points in an episode.
Yeah, the phone call was only brief, 15 minutes. And I think this is a lot of topics to discuss, Sim. And I think this episode here of 30 minutes will go through a lot of those comments there. So, Debbie, where do we start here?
I guess just in his initial points, there was actually a question in there. What are your thoughts on keeping the on the basically the robust construction? He's considering to do a subdivision of an 800 square meter block, build twin robust house on each side, each robust house basically being a dual key, essentially.
Is you sure?
Yeah.
No, not subdivide. No.
Yeah, subdivide and then a dual key on each side.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
For a dual dwelling. So that essentially each participant, because we know robust participants can almost never share, has their own dwelling, but they basically share the OOA and a breakout room.
Do you think, did he say he wanted a dual key, or you're thinking?
Well, we actually had that conversation. That's essentially what it would sort of be.
Debbie, do you think 800 square meters is big enough, or should it be bigger?
If it's a single bedroom house on each side with a shared OOA, shared breakout room, I think you could build that comfortably on a 400 meter block.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's okay. So I think the concept certainly is fine.
I also want to correct his question about the acreage topic.
Yeah.
No need for the acreage.
Yeah, look, it probably is something that was still a residual comment in our ebook
From 4 years ago.
Yeah, that we need to update. It doesn't. Ideally, a robust home is built on a larger block where there's more distance from the house to maybe the neighbours. But again, it depends on the participants.
Use a bit of common sense here. At the end of a cul-de-sac against a nice bush area, larger block, not tin can squeeze blocks side by side next to other houses, because that's not very conducive. For some people, might be too. What's the word?
Claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic, and they need space around the backyard.
Or they might be, sensitive to
Noise.
External noises and sounds. So further they are away from other neighbours might be better for that particular tenant.
Yeah, so a bigger block and away from the main street full of houses is ideal, yeah.
Yeah. We certainly do know Taryn Thompson in Adelaide. We do not know Warwick Gregg. We haven't come across him as an assessor. But I'm sure that if he has been in the accessibility world for many years, I'm sure he is perfectly suitable to engage as the assessor.
Yes.
So that goes straight into the actual questions.
So, Sim, I want you to just tick up the topics as we go through them, so we know we've covered all the answers and everything, yeah?
So first one, can you just repeat question number 1?
So question 1, is it queries?
Yep.
So query 1 is, are you able to recommend a high-quality SDA architect or a building designer in Adelaide? I recognize that despite my many years of building experience, I have never built an SDA home, so a great designer is a must.
You don't need a designer in Adelaide. It could be anywhere, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, whatnot, Gold Coast, Perth. As long as you've seen their portfolio, they have good reputation, and then they understand the actual SDA world, that's what matters. Because let's be honest, guys, you're going to hire an architect who's fully qualified to do SDA homes, but is it really an experienced person? So
Do they know anything about SDA? And it's not just about meeting the design guidelines, it's about making good design.
But I'm sure between Taran and himself, being a builder, he should be able to build a high quality, spacious home, which is safe for his child to be in eventually, for his son, but for good use by participants in the area as well. So it's common sense, really.
And we can recommend
Yeah.
architects and building designers, absolutely.
The second query is, what are your thoughts around the kitchen being lockable? There has been some talk about it on the podcast. I am thinking about a nib wall in the kitchen so that part of the kitchen, the cooktop, oven, and sharps could be locked with the rest of the kitchen available to the resident.
From what I understand, that having a kitchen being lockable is potentially an issue with restrictive practices. Is that right, Min?
Maybe.
Yeah. So
Just talk to your assessor. Make sure that if it is going to be a lockable kitchen, that it complies with the rules, and go from there. So
and if it is just a nib where you can just lock off, as you said, the cooktop, oven, sharps, I'm sure that is, it really does. With Robust, it all comes down to the specific requirements of the participant. Now, of course, you know what your son's requirements are, but you won't know what the requirements are of the additional 3 tenants you're hoping to get in the property. So just having something, I guess, that's flexible.
I want to go off topic here, ladies, and then we've never talked about dual key design before much. Let's talk about it. Pros and cons of a normal house Robust versus a villa Robust versus a dual key Robust versus a duplex Robust. Well, please explain to our listeners here, why are we even talking about, why is this person even entertaining the idea of a dual key Robust design here, please, Debbie?
Well, look, he could subdivide his block and just build 2 houses, a house on each side. He's basically only going to get 1 tenant in each property.
Because they can't share.
They can't share. So he could do a set of 2 villas on each side, which is not too dissimilar to doing a duplex or a dual key. Now, a duplex is something that is like kind of mirror image. So you generally need a wider frontage, street frontage for that. So a duplex wouldn't work if you're already subdividing an 800 square meter block. So a dual key or dual living type property where essentially it is the one house, but it has 2 separate living areas on the inside with separate entrances.
And one side is bigger than the other side, yeah.
Yeah. So on one side, there's a lot of different floor plans I've seen to make this work, but again, a good SDA assessor and a good designer will be able to come up with good designs that are compliant. But yeah, it all comes down to the shape of the block, the size of the block, and the requirements of the tenants.
But in layman's terms, the dual key design on each block, you're essentially building a house.
Yeah.
With 2 separate living areas, not partitioned like a duplex, split in half. No. You know, one side is his living room, his bathroom, and a shared kitchen, and another way on. So that is
I think it is not a shared kitchen, actually. I think they've each got their own kitchens, but there's a shared OOA and a shared breakout room.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
But there are designs of shared kitchen. I mean,
there are.
I showed you on the wall last week.
Yes, there are that as well. There's, like I said, there's a lot of different options in floor plans.
But a duplex and a dual occupancy house is a more cost to build it because it's actually a partition wall. Whereas a dual key doesn't have that split wall down half of the house. So there's a different design, allows for flexibility of 2 participants living under the same roof.
That's right.
Under the care of a provider, a carer, so to speak, in their own little corners, in their own little spaces.
Yeah, that's right. So it gives them the ability to live on their own, which is what most of them need. But you're then actually housing 2 people on the property. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a duplex, a dual key, dual living, villa, they're all funded at the same level, which is significantly lower than house funding. But if it was a house, you're only going to get 1 tenant anyway.
But Debbie, this dual key house is actually a house funded. It doesn't fall in the other ones. It doesn't fall in.
Okay.
So
if it can be assessed as a house?
It will, because it's a house. So it's an actual house. Benefit is less cost to build. And actually it takes two robust, if there is 2 robust funded people living together in one house with OOA there.
That'd be fantastic, because as an investment
Mm.
option, that will potentially give him a better yield.
Yes.
Yeah.
So move back to the questions there. What's our next topic?
Okay, we've actually covered the third question already. So number 4.
Query 4 is, What are your thoughts around 4 robust participants on the same block, although each in their own dwelling?
We were speaking with a developer the last several months who was looking at doing some robust developments down in Victoria somewhere. And we were talking to various providers. They actually did comment that they thought 3 would be the maximum number that you'd want to look at in the one location. So whether that's going to be the same in Adelaide, I know when I've spoken to different providers in Adelaide over the last few years, they all seem to want robust, although the stats don't indicate that there's any greater demand for robust than anywhere else. But I guess that is where you need to gauge the local demand and whether there are that many robust participants needing housing in the area, or whether it might be an option to do a subdivision but do a single tenancy and a double tenant.
Or, Debbie, one side is the OOA with the one robust person. The other side is 2 ILs and the 1 OOA.
True.
Or 1 OOA and 1 robust. So conservatively speaking, it's 1 on each side. That's it. Conservatively, 1 participant, robust, and 1 OOA on each side. Ideally, 2 and 1 OOA and 1 and 1 OOA. Will you get 4? Probably not. There's my answer. 4, no. 3, maybe. 2, yes. On the one side. That's my answer there.
Yeah. So, but again, yeah, it depends on the localized demand, really. Okay.
All right. There's some personal theories as well that we need to discuss here. First one being IL potentially being removed from the scheme.
No.
No?
Yes and no.
Nah.
Well, what we do know is that no new participants getting SDA funding are getting approved at IL. But they're not removing the IL category. Everything that's currently IL, whether it be a property or a participant with funding for IL, will remain in the system.
Look, it's a theoretical. It may not. I don't know. We can't. It's in the future. So
It is in the future. So
no comment for now, is it, Percy?
I do like his theory about splitting the robust category into 2.
It's a theoretical as well.
And it's a theoretical.
No comment there either.
Yeah, and you know, I understand where this theory is coming from, especially as he's got experience with someone with those sorts of developmental delays and other challenges, etc. So there are so many different participants that fall into the robust category with vastly different situations. So that's a great idea. Whether it's something that the NDIS would ever, consider if anyone else was to bring up that concept, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to design and build, I recommend Andy, the builder here, look at all the material online from Bruce Bromley. He's a robust expert, SDA assessor. His website, sdconsulting.com.au, has all the theories, designs, ideas, concepts, and strategy to put forward and build a robust house. So please look at that documentation on his website, please, Andy. But yeah, overall though, I mean, Debbie, I commend Andy, who has absorbed all this information in the last 6 months now, 5 months now, of all our podcasts and caught up to speed with where we are now.
That is a big thing to listen to 300 episodes. Yeah. That's a lot of listening.
And as a parent of a child who is particularly robust, it's great because he'll actually put the effort in to make it ideally appropriate for safe and comfortable living for robust participants, yeah.
So there's one more theory to discuss.
Right. So this theory is about SIL. With the talk of legacy housing being defunded, what will become of the current residents? Surely some of these buildings could be repurposed or refurbished to provide suitable accommodation for people on the NDIS, even if they're not eligible for SDA funding. I would be very keen to explore the possibility of being the building contractor undertaking these refurbishments if the demand is there. What are your thoughts?
No. The reason being is because someone has to pay for all the costs. And the SDA, the NDIS, has a minimum spend on...
Well, that is for SDA. Yeah. I don't know, Andy, if you were a little bit confused with SIL and SDA here, because you said SIL with the talk of legacy housing being defunded. Let me just reiterate what that actually means. Legacy housing will be defunded in South Australia, January 2028. But legacy properties are only those SDA properties that house 6 or more residents. And there's only a handful of those in South Australia. So that's kind of less relevant. What will become of the current residents? They'll be transferred over into new build SDA if they qualify for new build SDA funding. the bigger question is probably all of the group homes that have been recommended to be phased out because they don't meet new build requirements. They're not fit for purpose. A lot of them are operated by government. They were grandfathered into the scheme as the pre-scheme disability housing. Potentially, some of those could be refurbished. But again, as Min said, who's going to pay for it?
Yeah. So I admire you putting your hand up there, Andy. However, who's going to pay for it? And can you handle a couple of hundred refurbs in one go? And then you're a one-man team at the moment. And someone has to pay for it. And the state government ain't gonna.
No, they definitely not.
So it's not with the NDIS government either, no.
Yeah. So, if they are owned by other organisations that are willing to refurb them to SDA standards, great. But again, if they're group homes, we don't really want that. If they want to refurb them as group homes for non-SDA purposes, again, it's up to the individual organisations who already have those dwellings.
With his theory there that Andy's put forward, look, the way things are going is oversupply happening everywhere around most places. If there's defunding and phasing out of old legacy or old group homes, they will eventually drift into all these empty new builds sitting around out there.
They will.
So therefore, no need to refurbish old group homes because there's always new ones sitting there empty.
That is
and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they are in areas where it's just not feasible to build new, we're seeing that happen in Sydney and parts of Melbourne where it's too expensive.
Yeah.
So,
and with choice control, these businesses don't want to move out to other places that are newer, more fit for purpose, and different because we all want to change. So they've been living there for 10, 15 years in an old group home. They'll want to move on somewhere else. So with all these empty houses out there, they'll end up in those places, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Sim, are there any other things that we've missed out in that link, the email from Andy here?
I think you've covered most of it.
Yeah.
No, I think everything's been discussed.
Yeah, we've addressed all of the comments, all of the questions.
My feedback for Andy is don't assume 4 robust participants living in these 2 dwellings. Assume 2. And if you're okay with that, you and your friend who's an investor are okay with that, then fine. But remember the end goal here. The end goal is to have one for your son. That's the end goal here. And that's 1, not 2. Now, if by any chance he actually has a personality compatibility with someone else, and there's 2 mates who are robust, then sure, that's a possibility there. But be conservative in your approach. And Debbie, what's your rough numbers here? 1 robust participant in this house on each side is going to gather, 80 or 90 grand?
It'll be 100. I'm not sure what the figures in Adelaide are. 90?
Yeah.
If it was built as a dual key and enrolled as a duplex, then you'd probably be looking at 50 per participant.
Yep.
So it's not actually a lot different. So yeah, I mean, there's various different dwelling types you could consider building, and they're all going to return variances in the income depending on the participant's funding.
Yeah. Also, this is my advice to Andy as well. This is a commercial build for 2. I mean, if you're building 1 first and 1 later, I'd actually suggest building 1 house on 1 side of the block and then worry about the subdivision in the future. Because to subdivide this big block of 800 square meters means it's going to cost you about 100 grand outlay just to buy the block and break it in half. But you just build on 1 side first and then worry about the other one in the future. Because really, is Andy going to be spending all his time the next year and a half on these 2 builds only and nothing else? Or does he have a business to run and building other people's houses? And this is a pet hobby job on the side where he's doing it, with his whatever. So it's a balancing act of, are you building 2 at once or 1 only and 1 later? Or are you doing it while you're doing another business of building other houses for everyone else? So you juggle that challenge, logistics challenge there as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think, Andy, hopefully we've given you some food for thought, and of course, always happy to have further conversations and give you any more practical advice.
Yeah. Talk to your estate provider like Taryn, talk to an assessor, talk to other architects and designers who may be in the area that you're talking to. To be honest, until you've earmarked a block to buy and subdivide and build on, I think you're still 6 to 9 months away from actually pulling the trigger to actually start this project. And we're still here. Hopefully we'll be at episode 400 by then, Debbie, 500 by then. And And Andy, thank you so much for your loyalty and support of listening to our podcast and reaching out to us. We're very appreciative of your feedback. And we're here if you want to talk to us. Anyone else who has a similar batch of questions I want to ask about their journey as well, where Debbie and I and Sim are happy to add you to our next Ask Us Anything sub-series as well.
Absolutely.
Debbie, if anyone wants to reach out to us, what's the contact details, please, Debbie?
You can email us at info@ndis.property, or you can give us a call 1300 254 397.
Cool. Sim, is that it? We're finished?
Yeah. Always great to be a voice for the listeners.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.